All right, for more on this, we are now being joined by Klisman Moradi, economist and founder of Pareto Economics, a global world affairs research consultancy. Thank you so much for joining us on WION. What are your thoughts on these reciprocal tariffs that President Trump announced at the Rose Garden yesterday? What are its short-term implications and perhaps long-term implications for the United States?
Well, we can see the short term right now, Suzanne. I think the financial markets are in chaos. Big drops in almost all indices across the world because of these tariffs. Although that's, I think, more reactionary than anything. And they were to be expected. We had a long time to expect these tariffs because this is a new concept that President Trump put in front of the world. He's been talking about it even before he was elected president. So everything right now is happening inside and behind closed doors. Meaning inside we can see market volatility, and behind closed doors we are seeing government leaders trying their best to negotiate with Trump for more favorable terms for their countries. In the long term, I think what we really need to see is how businesses themselves take these tariffs and how they play out. Because an importer, for example, in America can decide not to pass on these costs to their consumers, depending on what the product is, depending on what state the business is in. And also exporters can also decide to lower their costs so that they can still be competitive with the domestic alternative. Again, these things and how they decide to react to these things, businesses will take it on board themselves to see how best they can survive and how best they can flourish in these changing times.
And do you think at this point that we're talking right now, and I can tell you here in New York, everyone is talking, even, the people downstairs in the lobby, at our offices, on the streets, everyone has an opinion about this. Are we still at a point where we really don't know which way all of this is going to go? Negotiation tactics, or actually implementing these tariffs? And also, what will happen?
Look, Trump isn't doing anything which is unknown. I mean, what he's doing is our reciprocal tariffs, right? So the best way that a country can get a better deal is by offering a better deal to the United States. You see, I think the long-term picture is what Trump wants to focus on currently. Hopefully, as energy costs go down in the United States and as more manufacturing jobs come back to the United States, these are incentives for companies to relocate to there so that they can improve the domestic economy of the United States. No one said that these things are going to be fair on every single player. Every single country has their own incentives and has their own agendas that they want to be fulfilled. So Trump is focusing on America, and other countries are going to be focusing on themselves. And it's really the devil is in the detail as to how can countries negotiate better terms. And also, Susan, how can countries help alleviate the pressures domestically at home? You're in New York, I'm in London. In London, we're having a lot of business associations now trying their best to work together with government so they can put their case forward as to what should happen with these tariffs, and also how businesses could be supported by the UK government, be it favorable taxes or other kinds of measures that can ease the burden, at least in the short term, just so we can see how these tariffs play out and how it impacts the bottom line, employment, inflation, etc., within these economies that export into the US.
Absolutely fascinating. Thank you for bringing Europe into this as well. What is public sentiment in Europe right now? You talked about the UK, London, and companies, but what about EU countries, for example? How is Europe reacting?
Well, Europe wants to say they are, responding with a unified front, but with 27 different economies, I don't think they'll be able to figure out something unitary, because different countries have different proportions of their export markets going to the United States. So countries which are heavily dependent on U.S. exports are going to have a much more forceful position, meaning they want to get things done faster. And countries which don't have that much exposure to the United States compared to other parts of the world aren't going to be as forthcoming with drastic policy changes for what they want to do. So Europe is going to try their best to have a unitary response. The best thing that Europe can do is negotiate. Any bold moves will only be counteracted by even more bolder moves by the United States. Because the United States is simply the biggest consumer in the world, they really have the cards to their hand to decide what they want to do. That's what's kept the US in such a powerful position over the years. Europe is an exporting economy, right, as a bloc. They survive on exports, be it manufacturing, be it cars, be it other products, be it financial services. So they are in a vulnerable position, and the best way to get out of a vulnerable position is by negotiation and is by speaking to businesses domestically to find out how they could be supported during this transitional phase, as President Trump has said.
Fascinating. Thank you so much for all of that, Klisman. And please do join in us again on WION. Of course, this is a story we'll be following very closely.
Looking forward to it.